Hey, baseball fans, my name is Dave from the Frontier League Journal. Hope you're doing well. I am, because today we are talking pitching. We are talking baseball with one man who has done it all, or almost done it all. It's Eric Minshall from the Southern Illinois Miners. How are you, Eric?
I'm great. Thanks so much for having me on today. I appreciate it.
It truly is my pleasure. And we were just talking about the fact that you are a 4-year Navy veteran who doesn't make his own bed.
Well, that's just today. It's getaway day, so they have to strip the bed anyway. But yeah, my bed's made at home, man. I promise you.
How happy are you that I begin the interview with that?
It's great. I love it. I really appreciated my service, and I wouldn't trade it for anything.
Okay, we had a lot of ground to cover, and just to put people up to date. Okay, so you've done it all when it comes to pitching. So can you maybe talk about the steps that brought you to the Southern Illinois Miners this year?
Sure. Yeah, 2019 it was with the Pirates, and obviously 2020 nobody coached. So an opportunity became available to become the pitching coach for the Miners, and was really encouraged as I was talking to people. Found out there was a job, open, and of course in the baseball network, everybody picks up the phone and calls, and just trying to figure out, is this a good fit? What do you know about the organization? And honestly, people were raving about the Southern Illinois Miners organization, how they're run top to bottom. Mike Pinto, class act, just does things first class all the way. The ballpark is really, honestly, it's the best in the Frontier League. It's not even close. Not to say other places aren't beautiful. It's just it's like a cathedral compared to the other places. It's gorgeous. So that's a big selling point. But Mike, in his approach, wants to win, and the way he handles guys, and obviously, like I said again, first class, is very attractive for me. So we hit it off, did some interviews. He did some checking on me, and I've got some pretty good references, which was good. And it was a fit, and I'm really happy to be here, and we're doing really well.
And your journey to today is quite amazing. I mean, as I mentioned, you were in the Navy. Then in the 90s, you were a Pittsburgh Pirates bullpen catcher.
That's right.
And then you've had your pitching schools. And then you've done it all. Do you have the same passion today that you had 20 years ago? Is that possible?
It's more invigorating now. When I started out, in the Pirates organization in Salem, catching in the bullpen there, and basically being an emergency third string guy. And then when I went into the military after that it happened, actually ended up being with the New York Mets AAA team, the Tides. I caught the big three back then: Bill Pulsifer, Isringhausen, and Wilson, I think, was the other one. Great guy. It's been a long time, so I don't remember their names. But great. Well, Benny Agbayani was on that team. We had Ray Ordonez, who won some Gold Gloves in the big leagues, and I did a lot of early work back then, and hitting fungos and throwing batting practice and catching bullpens. But I got to work with three really good managers: Toby Harrah, Rick Dempsey, and Bobby Valentine, and gave me an education. And that's one of those things where you think you know a lot about the game, and you run across guys that are just like walking encyclopedias, and you realize you just don't really know anything. I think that's what jump started me into, where do I take this? How do I get to be like that? I didn't look at, so many people look at things the short term. Well, in 2 years and 3 years, I'm going to be this. I wanted to know what in 20 years I was going to be like. And that's where I went with it. And it's still on that journey. Very, very excited to have done all that and had that under my belt. But, I went back home, coached at Archbishop Moeller High School. It's one of the top 25 programs in the country. It's legendary for the players that are being turned out. A couple of Hall of Famers. Ken Griffey Jr. and Barry Larkin. And I grew up with those guys. I got to know those guys real well. I played with their brothers too. And it's funny. I walk across, I meet everybody, and I'm never awestruck because I grew up with guys that were superstars. It just doesn't bother me. They're people too. So did a little work with Anaheim Angels as an instructor in between. And then was in the Frontier League, was the very first manager. Lawrence Freedom history. A lot of people think it was Sabor Brenning. That's not true. I did. I'm actually on the first lineup card. We lost 2-1 to Chillicothe in Chillicothe, but yeah, I mean, I've been around, and I appreciate that I've been around. I think you need to be around. I think it's valuable for your feel for the game. It's something we talk about all the time here. Have some feel, and whether it be umpiring or coaching or players or staff, you have to have a feel for the game, and that's not an overnight thing. That's not something you get in 2 or 3 or 4 years, and it takes a while.
One thing I appreciate about you is you have this background where the old school approach is there, but you seem to be very, very open to what's happening right now, because let's face it, it's not because this is new that this is bad, and stats are not bad at all. Obviously, technology either. Okay. Throwing a ball at 95 miles an hour is one of the most unnatural thing a body can do, an arm. Do you think there's a way that you can make it work so that you don't lose a limb?
Yeah. And I would disagree that it's unnatural. I think that's a wise tale. And as we've kind of looked back at history and things, the prehistoric figures, the hunters gatherers that we're talking about, they raised their hand overhead with a spear, and they raised their hand overhead with a rock to throw and kill something. So if we weren't meant, we wouldn't be able to do it. Now, those guys probably weren't throwing 95 to a catcher, but I wouldn't say that it's unnatural. However, that motion comes with some high risk if your body's not prepared. And I think that's what we figured out here in the last, I don't know, let's say 7 or 8 years, that there's different training methods to be able to help the arm stay healthy, reduce the risk of injury. You'll never prevent injury. You can reduce the risk of injury. I think that's where we're at now, trying to figure out different throwing programs, we're so technical now, and so on the science side of the physiology part of the body. And I just had a conversation with a guy out in the outfield yesterday that was almost entirely medically related, about kinesiology and how the arm works and how the scap unloads, and what this body part does and how much posture plays a part of that. Did not have those kind of conversations 10 years ago. So I'm really curious to see where we're going to be 3 and 5 years from now. That's the conversation I'm looking forward to.
Am I mistaken in saying that every bodies have a different approach to it? Or in baseball and pitching, have you learned that maybe one approach works? How does that work? Do you see a body and then
we have 12 pitchers, and it's 12 different approaches for me, and that was a big change again from 10 years ago. We were very cookie. Everybody had to do the same things. Throwing program is the same. Everybody long toss the same. We don't do that anymore. It's very individualized, and that's absolutely the way it has to be. Because everybody's body is different. You've got different range of motion, different strength levels, different fatigue levels, and you have to dial in on that. And that's where coaching really is right now. And that's where we talked about old school. There's guys that don't believe in any of that. Well, they didn't take the time to educate themselves. And if you look at their rosters and their disabled lists, and it's long because they're not taking the right approach. And I may get some flack for that, but I don't care. I feel like we're really good at what we do, and I'm educated. I travel all winter. I go everywhere, but every certification you could possibly think of. And that's, honestly, one of the reasons that I'm a partner with so many big names in the business, because I do own a huge facility. We're one of the 6 largest pitching player development centers in the country, because we have 300 arms to work with, from major league guys. We work with some of the top 5 arms in the industry, all the way down to, we've got 2 first-round draft picks that are working out in my facility right now. They're going to go in the draft in a couple of weeks.
Which one?
Well, we'll have Sam Bachman, and we'll have TJ Brock, and we've got another one that may be a surprise. So I don't want to say, because I don't want to jinx him, but we're now talking that he was looking at 3 to 5, around 3 to 5, and he may go at the end of 1. And those guys throw 100 to 102 miles an hour. And when we started working with them, they weren't that. They threw hard, don't get me wrong. And certainly with Sam, we only got to work with him a little bit. PRP in Indiana has done the most work with him, but these guys know how to go get it. And if you look at their physiology, look how their bodies were working and what the tweaks were to get them the extra 5, in some cases 6 to 7 miles an hour from a finely tuned athlete. That's where we're heading now. And both of them aren't hurt. Mm-hmm. Both of them have no injuries whatsoever, and they're throwing fantastically. So I'm excited about those things.
Everybody's talking about Driveline. How good are they? I mean, because they've come to be the image of what's happening right now. I'm not saying they're right, but are they doing everything that they should, and are they doing everything that they could?
Well, yeah, Driveline helped this arena as far as pushing the envelope of, well, we always did things because somebody else told us it was right. We found out to be BS. We've debunked as an industry now. We've debunked so many things, about putting ice on your arm after a game, about when you should long toss, and when you mentioned Driveline, you got to throw Jaeger Sports. You got to throw Alan Jaeger in there because of the use of bands and long toss. So people, oh, you don't need to do all that, Yeah, you do. And now we're dialing into all of the studies. That's the thing. Nobody was taking time to study it to see if things were right or wrong. We were just doing what we were told to do by a previous generation. And if you go back and look, we do all the time, how mechanics have changed and how things have improved. And not to say there wasn't good pitchers back in the day. There were very, very good pitchers, but a lot of those guys, if you talk to them, and I meet some of these guys that think like, oh man, I had to do this, that, and the other to get my arm, the stuff that they were putting on their arm to numb their arm from the pain. And that's one of the things that we try to get away from now is the pain. I mean, some of these guys literally said at the end of the career, they couldn't lift their arm to brush their hair. That's a problem. Now, their numbers were amazing. They may have won 20 games, 2.64 ERA, made big money with a club, but there isn't any reason you shouldn't be able to brush your hair when your career's over. So, Driveline, obviously it's a hot topic, and the weighted ball, thing goes back and forth, and there's a lot of advantages to it. It's probably not for everybody in the regard of how I look at this. Is your body prepared to be able to throw weighted balls? Do you have the ability to commit yourself to the process to throw weighted balls? And if you don't. If you have no idea what you're doing, you're shotgunning this approach, I probably wouldn't do it. At our facilities, we have guys that use them. We have guys that don't. It's okay. We have guys on many different programs. And again, we take them as they come. But I would say that by and large, by the people that come in and are worried about the weighted ball use, they see what guys are doing and how we implement it. And it's specifically implemented to them. We have zero injuries. We have zero injuries. Not to say, knock on wood, that somebody couldn't, and that could be, again, somebody has a real thin ligament that we're not aware. We don't have X-ray vision, we don't have MRIs for eyes, but our approach is very safe. And I think that's Driveline's message is that, and I don't want to speak for Kyle Bodie. I've known Kyle for years, and his team is just fantastic. I communicate with them a lot.
Nope.
Speak for them, but I think their approach is to do it the right way. And one of the things that gets overlooked at Driveline is they have an amazing onboarding for you. I mean, to be able to come in and you actually sit with somebody and you get all of your measurements completed, and they find out what your body's doing, what it's capable of, what you need to correct with your body before you even really start throwing. So that's what we do at our facility. And I think that's why we have zero injuries. We don't let somebody just come through the door and start doing whatever they want. That will never happen. That will never happen in my facility. And that's the way it should be done. But, having a full assessment done correctly by a real professional can keep you from getting injured. And I think that gets overlooked. And, I'm also very close with Ron Wolford at the ranch, and, they have a weighted ball implementation, but they do it a different way. And there's nothing wrong with that. Mm-hmm. There are many ways to skin this cat, and it's just commitment to the process. I love both of those guys, and I don't think they're on opposite ends of the spectrum at all. Absolutely. They just have a different way of approaching it, and they all meet here. There's nothing wrong with that. I subscribe to all of that because I'm in the business for the guy that's in front of me. Mm-hmm. It has nothing to do with me. It has everything to do with the 10U player, the 12U player, the 15U player, the 18U trying to get signed late, the college guy that's going up the draft board. We have tons of minor league guys that we work with, and major league guys that we work with that want to stay there, and we've seriously helped some careers. And that's what like you're talking about earlier, that's what invigorates me every day. And what's one of the reasons I'm here in Southern Illinois. We don't have big draft prospect guys that are going. These guys has either been missed, don't have an opportunity, or are looking for another chance. So In that regard, I'm going to do everything I can to help them succeed. We're here to win. This isn't a developmental league, but at the same time, it doesn't mean we can't be working towards something. And that's what we do.
And that's why I like indie ball too. I often scroll through Instagram and I see these posts where there are a group of guys around one guy who's throwing the hell out of a ball. He throws 97. Mm-hmm. Good for you, sir, but you cannot throw a strike. Have we become obsessed with velocities?
Yeah, we have, because it's sexy. Mm-hmm. A lot of conversations in the last several months and now coming down to weeks about data on guys that we have and what's their command look like. And, we do a lot of command training. We train the arm to move fast, be healthy, etc., be able to maintain. But you got to get the ball over the plate. And that's the same thing here. We got to get the ball over the plate. And you can go all the way back to Sandy Koufax. Sandy Koufax threw really, really, really hard, but you wouldn't want to step in the box because he might kill you. Mm-hmm. And you go back to, and I can't remember, it was Claude Osteen or Ron Peronowski. I thought it was Claude Osteen that maybe told him, take a little off. So let's just say he was throwing 95, and I don't know. I have no way to know what he's throwing, but he threw 92, 93 and threw strikes and then had that awesome hammer. Okay. So we teach that as well. We know if you look at players that post their numbers, they'll say he's 89, 91, top 93. So he competes 89, 91. He's capable of throwing 93. And, in our facility, we don't lose sight of the fact that he's consistent, at those numbers. So what we start training and honing in on is, okay, we know you can throw 93. Let's see what that looks like. Are those numbers safe for you? Do you have excessive Newton meters in your elbow because of that? Are you risk of an injury? Oh. But can we work on, if you look at the maturity of these players and getting stronger in their legs, getting bigger, stronger as they get older, then we may know that 93 may become his consistent velocity as we go along. With these kids, they want to, and players in minor league guys, they want to chase that top number. But again, I tell them all the time, I say, well, if you've got 15 innings and if you got 21 walks and 32 strikeouts, they're not going to keep you. Mm-hmm. It's just not going to happen because remember Mitch Williams back in the day, he'd walk 2, strike out 3. And Jim Fregosi, his old manager, who I've met many times and unfortunately passed away, said he's just driving crazy. He said he almost couldn't watch the game, and they won't do that now. You got to get the ball over the plate, and you've got to have secondary pitches that are hard. But it is sexy to watch somebody throw 100, 101. I love watching it. But if you don't throw for strikes, it doesn't matter because it's not competitive.
I'm a Blue Jays fan, by the way, so the Mitch Williams, I know about him.
Good end of that.
As I mentioned in the beginning, you're a former Navy man who doesn't make it on bed. So what I wanted to know is, do you see how has that? That's a joke, of course.
I know.
How has that impacted the way you see your job and the confrontation? I mean, it is called. Okay. Oh wait. What I want to say is, do you see that as a battle? Do you know what I mean? So is the mental approach impacted by your background?
Military background gave me a lot of structure and ability to organize, but it also gives you a lot of stress inoculation. So, I don't freak out in stressful times. I've also managed a great deal. I mean, I have over 1,000 wins in 25 years on my own. So, I know how to win. I've got a lot of rings, but those all come from building good teams and having good leadership and not freaking out at those critical moments and not making mistakes under pressure. That's where the military really helps you, is having a good field of vision, when you talk about battle planning, et cetera, and having a good view of your battlefield and what you're trying to do with the pieces that you're moving around. So, that's pretty helpful when it comes to that. And as you go along in the game, you just get better at it. It's kind of funny. I'll tell guys, I've seen this before. You kind of know what's coming around the corner, and the game in and of itself hasn't really changed all that much. It's faster, but the situations that happen in the game haven't really changed all that much. So being prepared for what's coming next just has a lot to do with planning and preparation and experience, but being able to be calm during all those moments for a player or coach is really impactful.
You've seen both, but well, the new generation coming up, and if you compare to the ancient, wow, to the former generation, are they more, well, obviously because of social media and the information that's out there, they're more aware of what they can do. Are they more accepting of what you can, you can, they can learn from you, you know, or were they maybe
Yeah, yeah. As
before?
far as players like listening to you,
Yeah.
yeah. And we talk about this. I actually had a conversation at the Texas Baseball Ranch about this last winter. Is, you know, the players know whether you got the juice or not, and they can look up right away. Is this guy know what he's talking about? And you have to be right. Doesn't mean you can't be wrong, but you have to be right. And they know whether you're BSing them or not. And that's one of the things I really take a great pride in is I'm constantly working to get more information, teach better, learn better, approach guys better, better myself as an instructor, as a coach, as a mentor, so that I can give them the juice, because we get to results faster now. And I think that's the one of the key points of all this data, all the stuff that we're doing. You get to an end result faster. That's what it's really about. Player development is happening faster. Getting results in an at bat is happening faster. Being able to get a pitcher to execute better is happening faster because we have more data that we're guessing far less than we ever have.
Yeah.
So, you know, I would think, and I appreciate the comments that I've had, you know, in the last several years, you know, about what we do and the things that I've been involved in. You know, I believe I'm on the edge of the technology. I believe I'm a leader in the industry because they tell me that I am, but and it sounds very arrogant, and I really don't want to come off that way. It's part of being at the forefront. It's part of being a leader. It's part of researching and doing what other guys say they're going to do. That's a big difference for me. I have tons of guys tell me they're going to do stuff all the time. Oh, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this course. I'm going to do that. And they don't do any of those things. And then they get upset when you get somewhere, you know, and that's their fault. But as far as players are concerned, they know whether you have the juice or not, and whether you can help them or not. And I'll tell you this: if you can't, they'll dismiss you pretty quickly. And we've talked about this. Yeah, I mean, guys come from big programs that have horrible coaches. You go, wow, you played there, and it's like, yeah, that guy never helped me at all. You know, the only thing he was worried about was looking in the stands or doing this, or never did any drills with us, or never did. You know, it could be A, B, C, and D. You're like, wow, really? You know, like never. And it shocks me to this day, and you wonder how they get that job, and then you figure out how they do. But the players won't trust you. They may have loved being part of that program, but they won't speak well of the coach because he wasn't really involved in their process. Didn't really help them grow as a man. Didn't help them grow, you know, spiritually. Didn't help them grow on the field. Didn't give them any confidence. You know, there's a whole. Every player has their own, you know, bucket of things that they need. And if they, you know, he's a nice guy, you know, well, that's fine. You know, I'd rather have that, you know, he wasn't really nice to me, but he really helped me in a way, you know.
Oh, wait, but you mentioned that it sounded arrogant, but you should be very, very proud of being able to adapt and learn new things, because you won't be the dinosaur or who's just left behind, you know. And,
you're right about that. I had a really good conversation with a friend of mine that was in the Cardinals organization. It's funny because we're here in St. Louis, and he was getting ready to retire as the field coordinator. We met on the field right before the playoffs when I was with the Pirates, and we were the only affiliate that made the playoffs. And we were getting ready to play the Cardinals rookie league team. So we were meeting behind home plate, and he said something to me that was just so valuable. We were talking about, you know, how far the game is. He said, you know, Eric, we're both old school, but we've embraced new school and we teach new school. Because, you know, what we really are is we're middle school. And I've not stopped saying that since he told me that, because it's true. I have not forgotten anything that I've learned over 25 years. I mean, I've been coaching for 25 years, since I was 21 years old. And actually a little bit before that, but I took a 2-year break. So we'll just say 25 years. But I also realize how much we've debunked out of that. But it doesn't mean that experiences that I had, game situations, things that don't involve data, those things are all still there. How I treat a player, a thing I may have said to some guy 15 years ago that helped his career, all those things are valid. And then we move now forward in how to apply it with a new way of teaching or a more advanced way of teaching, however you want to say it. I mean, metrics always existed. We just never took the time to look at them. So, yeah, I value all of that. I value my experience because that's what it is. I've been around a long time. I've seen a lot of things come and go. It doesn't mean I know everything, because I don't. I never will. I will never pretend that I do. But I do know that I have a vast amount of knowledge to work with to help a player.
Well, to that end, you've been in affiliated ball and indie ball.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, partner league. I'm sorry about that. Which one do you prefer? Because there is a huge difference. One, you're free in the partner league in a way because you want to help the player get to the next step. But in the other, if you don't abide by the philosophy in the organization, you're fucked and they will get rid of you. So
yeah.
Which one do you prefer?
Well, there's advantages to both. There's, certainly here in independent ball, you don't have a front office to, I don't know. I don't really know how to say. You don't have a mandate coming down on, hey, only work with these guys, which could happen. You have priority guys that, hey, I want you to spend most of your time with player A, B, and C.
Oh,
well, it doesn't mean you ignore the other guys. You just spend more time with those guys, and that can be challenging because guys are like, hey, how come I'm not going to work with? But I found time to work with everybody when I was in affiliated ball. But then, philosophically, you may have an organization just absolutely doesn't believe in something and they don't want you to teach something. And okay, you have to abide by that. I mean, they're paying you. You're the boss, but it causes an internal conflict.
of course.
I'm sorry.
Of course it does.
Oh yeah, and then you move on to where you are in affiliated ball, which I absolutely love being there. And obviously, there's a lot more resources available to you just because of the money that's being spent. You can't expect any ball teams to buy $200,000 worth of equipment for you to use. So, but that can become a crutch sometimes too. So there's advantages. Working in affiliated ball, I learned so much that we use here. I'd say at least 3/4 of my pitching staff has affiliated experience, and they tell me all the time, like, you really run this like affiliate. Yeah. I said, because the guys who haven't, when they get there, this won't be like, oh my God, that they'll know what it's like. This is how you do early work. This is how throwing program is designated. Here's how a 30-day is run. Here's how we approach this. So they won't be surprised when they get there. But that's the best thing that I can do for them. I wouldn't say I necessarily have a preference either way, because it's my job as a servant to come here and serve the staff, and you're going to do that wherever you go. No matter what job you have, they're going to put you in, drop you in. Here's what I want you to do. And I think a lot of organizations, and I had a lot of conversations with organizations over the last 2 years, tons of interviews, was interviewing. Surprised, I got a lot of calls to interview as coordinators, assistant coordinator, different pitching coach levels. And not everybody's a fit because their philosophy is changing, or they want to do. I had talked to some organizations that were like, well, we're going to try this. Well, there's no trying. You have to commit to the process.
Absolutely.
Look what the Reds have done. They went all in, and now look what look what their minor league pitchers are doing right now in their staffs. I mean, they are chewing guys up. It took them a year to implement, and now they're executing in year 2. And now people are going to go, I want to do that. Everybody's on the sidelines, want somebody to do something, and you can't dabble and try and maybe, and I think you have to commit. So, sometimes I don't want to be, and you get into a situation in a clubhouse with minor league coaches where you've got guys on one side that are doing this a certain way, and you got guys on this over here trying to protect their jobs. And that happens. And you're like, oh, I don't know. I've been doing this for 25 years. And I'm not saying they're wrong, but it creates a division, and you cannot have division when you're in a spring training and extended. And it doesn't mean you can't have a different opinion or a different approach. That's not what I'm saying. Everybody has value with what they bring to the table, but you cannot put a division between guys of, well, I teach this way, and oh no, I saw that actually, and it's disheartening and it's improper, but it is what it is. You know, I mean, that's probably in any corporate America, anywhere you go, there's probably some guys sitting across from you at a table that just don't do things the way you do them. And it's up to the boss to decide who's right, you know, but the game's changed and you better get in front of it. Cause I can tell you, I know a ton of guys who refuse to change, and they badmouth this, that, and the other. And as I look around, and I think last year was probably one of the last big sweeps, they're all gone.
Exactly. And it's a good segue, by the way. This is a good segue, because before we talk about your pitching staff, I want your take. Forget about pitching, okay? I want your take about the changes that happened. Not only the partner league, but also the fact that the draft will be reduced to 20 rounds. This is a huge step into the new era into baseball. What's your take on it?
I firmly disagreed with that. And having worked in the lower minor league levels, I can tell you that, you know, you're bringing in a guy that probably needs time in an Appalachian League, getting his feet wet, figuring out what his routine is, how to become a pro, all those things. You know, they need time. If his next option is, so if you send him to what they now call the Florida Complex League or the Arizona Complex League, previously that's a lower step. It's still professional baseball. Those players are good, but there's a huge difference between that league and low A. Huge. Now, it doesn't say guys can't jump up, but you will not see a bunch of guys jumping in and having a lot of success. That's the problem. Yes, you have to fail, but at some point you have to succeed, because we drafted guys once with the Pirates that came in that had great college careers, and they came in and they struggled. They never got over it, and then they quit. They retired. And well, that's a waste of a draft pick. That's somebody else's opportunity they could have had. And you know, a lot of that's up here, but at the same time, you can't afford that with 20 rounds. You've got to have, there was a system in place that worked very well for guys to have a bridge between. They said, well, we'll bring up the level of GCL. No, you won't.
No, you won't.
No, not bring up no, you will not. And good luck. Good luck, because you look at guys with GCL numbers that hit 300, 320, and then go to low A and they're hitting 112, 110, and they struggle mentally, and they try to change their game. They try to do all the things that they're not capable of, that they weren't drafted for. They got to remember why they were drafted and who they are. And then now, because you don't have any space to hold somebody, you're potentially letting somebody go. Now, that in and of itself is a problem. You've got a guy that he might be getting close to aging out, but he's hitting 295, and well, we just drafted this guy and put a lot of money in him in the 10th round, and you're going to take a spot, and you change a team dynamic at low A. You put a kid in who's not ready. I mean, there's just a myriad of things that happen. And I may be a little jaded on that. But those things are happening. Are there going to be success stories? Yes, there will be. Absolutely. There's going to be some guys that come in and step in and do it, but they're going to be, in my opinion, they're going to be far fewer in between than this system. I thought it was a travesty what was happening. It does not cost a lot of money to run these teams and these leagues. The money thing was BS. Some of the stadiums were not up to par. I understand. Some of the travel out west was horrid. But I was in the Appalachian League. There's no better travel schedule in the minor leagues than the Appalachian League, period. The Western Division was all within an hour of each other. We didn't even do overnights in the West. So there was no now. Were there some stadiums need to upgrade? Absolutely. But, you know, if you think you're going to be playing like what we have in Southern Illinois would have been prime, I understand that you're not going to get a $26 million stadium, but, you know, these cities were willing to put money in to help. And, you know, I just never agreed with what happened there. You know, I understood in some other leagues because some of the bus rides were 12 hours, and that's pretty hard to deal with. But that's my take, man. I was there. So, I mean, I can tell you that was my take.
Yeah, but I'm happy because I think, well, I'm happy. If those are the rules, the Frontier League, I think, is in a very, very good place because of the roster requirements to get those players who want to continue and just have a new showcase, just showcase themselves. And it will be great for you, great for the fans. the Frontier League is in a very, very good place right now.
Yeah, and the benefactor was the Frontier League, and they're thriving, and in certain areas because of that. Look at the number of guys that are getting signed, and look at look what we're doing for these players, and that's exciting. That's exciting, and there's still some things I think that need to be worked out on that end, and certainly don't want to comment too much on that. But as things change, there's you have to make adjustments, et cetera, and those things will be made. But it's exciting for the league. The league's huge now. We've got great quality player all over the place. Love the guys that we see on a regular basis, and I'm happy to see so many guys getting contracts and signing because it's what they deserve. A lot of these guys just needed an opportunity to fix or work on something and get back. Or guys that are coming out, like I said, there's guys that are getting signed that have no affiliate experience. They came here and they slipped through the cracks. They showed what they could do against professional pitching, and they're getting picked up. That's great. That's fantastic.
According to your schedule, you have 10 minutes left to.
5 minutes. I got to get upstairs and get my stuff.
so five. Okay, perfect. What I want to do with you, I'll let you go, but we'll do something very cool. I have a great working relationship with Drew Martinez, which is who is the hitting coach for Florence. And so sometimes I have a guy who signs with Florence, and then I say, "Hey, Drew, what can you say about him to me right now on Twitter?" So what we could do, because I have a lot of notes on your players. So what we could do, I'll talk about those guys on Twitter, and it's always positive, by the way. So I'll tag you and just answer with what you want to say.
Sure.
Does that make any sense to you?
Absolutely. Yeah.
There you go. So it will be more interactive, more people will see it. And it was such a great discussion, Eric. I mean, you know your stuff and you're very passionate. For you, after 50 years in the business.
Field is gray.
but to have that passion, I mean, it shows in your eyes. Not everybody can do that. So my hats is off to you, my friend. Let's do that again. Don't be a stranger, and we'll continue that discussion on Twitter.
I'd love to check in with you again in August, and get an update. I think it would be fine. And thanks for having me on. I really appreciate you reaching out. I follow you, and I love everything that you're doing for our league. I think it does nothing but not only promote the league, but the players. And that's what we're all here for, is for them.
There you go. Have a great day, man. You have a doubleheader today?
Yeah, we got 2 against Gateway.
Okay, let's play 2, sir. Have a good day.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Take care.
Bye.